Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful and we're beautiful and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, you must become the victor. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are times when you can only look on in stunned disbelief, and that was my reaction when EA tried to run damage control for Dragon Age the Veilguard and said that the reason that the game failed is because it wasn't a live service. That may be one of the most monstrously stupid statements, and I know for a fact, if I were working at a company and I said something like that, I would probably get fired. But certain people, they just fail upwards. No, the reason that Veilguard failed is multifaceted. Number one, it was poorly written. Number two, it had no clear direction of what it wanted to be. Number three, you lost the vision of what Dragon Age was, which was a dark fantasy RPG. You tried to turn it into some kind of lighter, more like Gen Z, we're going to have the character intros be like something out of Fortnite. You completely abandoned what it was that made Dragon Age famous. You completely abandoned your core audience. You abandoned your core principles. You retconned huge amounts of the story. And also, and this is something to add in there, you decided to allow a bunch of LGBTQ activists to control the entire project. I am, of course, talking about Corinne Bush, and I'm also talking about Patrick Weeks, who goes by, quote-unquote, Trick Weeks. But the fact that this guy got in front of a camera and actually had the gall to try to say that, no, what people really want, what people really demand is a live service game. That could not be further from the truth, and you did not learn the lesson of this failure and all the other failures. How do you people not get it? We want something that is true to the core of what that IP was. If I start reading a book series, and then by book 4, they completely change everything, and the entire premise is about a character being, I'm non-binary. Like, did you not think that that would ultimately help to tank the game? That you had this freak element that people rightfully detest and despise? Why would you think that that would work? Every bit of data demonstrates that there is a contingent of gamers that are zero tolerance of LGBTQ or DEI or pronouns. I know I'm one of them. But the people who don't care are going to buy your game anyway. And the people who are activistic freaks, their numbers are so infinitesimally small that it doesn't even bear mentioning them anyway. So the smart thing to do would be to take the pronouns, take the wokeness, take the DEI out of the game completely and make something that is true to the experience and the core of what made the first game popular in the first place. The first game was popular because you had a ton of choices. There wasn't, there wasn't body type A or B. It was just male or female. There wasn't really any homosexuality. I know that there was one character that you could romance that was a guy, but he was his character didn't really matter. He was sort of like a background character. In fact, I think he's a character that you could kill off early on. And so you wouldn't even have to deal with him, if I remember correctly. But that game had a lot of Easter eggs. It had a lot of heart and soul. It was very witty. It was interesting. And there was so much more in that game that was enjoyable to the core audience that you should be going to than Veilguard. Veilguard was a game that was made by committee from people that don't understand what they're doing. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this clip from the channel It's a Gundam.
Failure lies with the leadership. Andrew Wilson is an idiot.
That games would permeate our lives much the way digital music does today. From the minute I get up in the morning, everything I do has an impact on my gaming life, both discrete and indiscrete. The amount of eggs I have in my internet-enabled fridge might mean my Sims are better off in my game. The length of distance I drive in my Tesla on the way to work might mean that I get more juice and Need for Speed. If I go to soccer practice in the afternoon by virtue of internet-enabled soccer boots, that might give me juice or new cards in my FIFA product.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fucking fine.
I have said it countless times before over the years. The dude looks like Homelander. This guy can't think of anything but live services.
EA suggests Dragon Age the Veilguard might have sold better if it was a live service. So what does that mean for Mass Effect 5?
I'll tell you what it means. Mass Effect 5 is going to have a community hub where everyone can run around and do missions together, and it will bomb. I can't wait.
Yeah. You would think that they would have learned this sort of lesson from Anthem, but at this point, I don't think that there's anyone learning anything. You see, one of the core tenets of victory is that you learn more from your defeats than you do from your successes. And I think that that's true. You can learn a lot from, a game doesn't work out. People aren't really attracted to it. Well, the first thing that you would do is hyper-analyze, why did this fail? And the reason is because you can take the sort of perspectives of people at your company, people who, bought the game, played the game, people online. You have a wealth of information at this point that's free online. There are people that will do hour-long video essays about why they didn't like a certain element of your game. That is so valuable, and yet these companies don't really put any value in it. It's so valuable, though. It's a priceless resource. You have access to more user data in terms of their feedback and their emotions and what they thought about this than ever before. You should know why Dragon Age the Veilguard failed. Tosh was an ugly, insufferable, disgusting character that was off-putting in every regard, and even people like Asmongold that wanted to give the game a 6 out of 10, I mean, that may be one of the stupidest things that he's ever said, that game is a 6 out of 10. That game's a 2 out of 10. That's me being extremely generous. Extremely generous. But yeah, Mass Effect 5. Do I have any faith in that project after listening to this stuff? No. Because it seems like they haven't learned the lessons they need to learn. Now, I could totally be wrong. I could. The game could come out, there could be... let me tell you my metric. I'll just be perfectly honest. When Mass Effect 5 comes out with a trailer, I think that the tone of that and the visuals of that will tell you everything that you need to know. If there's some character who's like a strong, empowered, quote-unquote, female character we have her head shaved, if there's a bunch of black characters that are just thrown in there, if there is this obvious commitment to this thing that people have rejected in its entirety, I think the game is going to fail. I think you can tell that from the first trailer when it comes out. And all the other stuff will just be gravy. Having a game that, has a hub world. Like, An MMO, that makes sense. Not a single player game. And these should be single player games. How is it that these Chinese, and this is what pisses me off the most. This is what pisses me off the most. How is it that these Chinese and Korean and Japanese companies can figure out how to make a single player game, but we can't? We in the West, we can't figure out how to make a single player game. What did it feel? Well, it didn't have enough microtransactions. Get serious.
Bring it on, baby.
I like it a lot.
Andrew Wilson wants EA to have its own GTA Online. Even Bethesda has Elder Scrolls Online. Square Enix has Final Fantasy XIV. EA wants a game that they can put out and turn players into subscription-based long-term pay pigs, like their FIFA cash cow. Thank God for FIFA. Their fan base will buy literal garbage.
Money, please.
Okay, he spoke to some investors. Let's make this quick, because I don't care. In order to break out beyond the core audience... Dude, this game couldn't even reach the core audience. What?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
Games need to directly connect to the evolving demands of the player who increasingly seeks shared world features and deep engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category. Dragon Age had a high-quality launch and was well received by critics and those who played. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in its highly competitive market.
It was received well by critics and people who wanted to, and I quote, own the chuds. And apparently there wasn't enough people owning the chuds. That's why it didn't sell.
After a long bumpy development, Dragon Age: The Veilguard finally emerged last year as a single-player based game, but of course, an earlier iteration of the project had intended to include online play and live services features.
Oh, typical EA. Just like they killed Anthem.
Let's see, the length of the project development in its large part was due to the fact that EA flip-flop on the game initially being a live service, then a single player, then a live service, single player decision after taking high-profile flops, blah blah blah. Dragon Age: The Veilguard underperformed, icing the competitive dynamics of the single-player RPG market.
Yeah, sure. Like, it was, it launched almost a year after Baldur's Gate 3. People want single-player RPG games. They just want them to be good.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can make that statement. Putting aside all the other, degenerate LGBTQ DEI garbage. Elden Ring exists. The fact that Elden Ring exists and it's been years and this guy still makes the statement tells me this guy is he's an absolute moron. It's an indefensible statement. There is not a single excuse for what he said. There's not a single justification for being that completely and totally tone deaf when it comes to a game like this. You failed. Not because people are demanding live service, because it's not just Dragon Age. I mean, you've got Baldur's Gate 3, which was a single player experience. You've got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is a single player experience. Now, kind of like a Dragon Age, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 went the sodomy route, and I think in the end it's going to absolutely affect their bottom line. I know some people will say, but they've already sold 1 million. Yeah, it could have been 2 or 3. The fact is, there are a lot of people that look at, they look at the degeneracy and they have a zero tolerance. I know a lot of people on my channel, they're like, yeah, I'm non-binary. NON-BUI, you get it? Non-binary. Yeah, people have basically said, I'm not interested. And we'll talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance too in another video. Because damn, that game is getting absolutely spit roasted. And especially because IGN put out a guide. As soon as the game launched, they put out a guide How to Romance Hans. I'm sure you've seen it by now. But that was a major shot across the bow. And this is the video that I'm talking about. This is from IGN official. This was put out as the game launched. They knew exactly what they were doing, and this is ultimately their revenge. Giving it a high score and then celebrating its LGBTQ elements. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, these corporations, they still don't get it. So it's my job to continue to reinforce this basic stuff. These people don't know how to make a game. They don't know how to sell it, how to market it. They're completely and totally clueless. And every failure is not something to celebrate. It's something to examine. Because China is making banger after banger after banger. Black Myth Wukong is a phenomenal game that people love. Stellar Blade came out of nowhere, a game that people absolutely love. So these Asian studios can figure this out, but multi-billion-dollar Western gaming giant EA can't figure it out? They can't understand that, no, we don't want a lumbering, disgusting, non-binary, quote-unquote, behemoth in the game that talks about their damn pronouns? You can't figure that out? If you had actual leadership in the company, you would have fired Corey Bush, you would have fired Patrick Weeks, you would have fired all of these degenerates, because their activism and their need to make everything about themselves is ultimately what costs you money, time, and effort. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.